Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're doing another video with me here, as opposed to my little Lego guy. Seems to be a hit amongst the you guys, the subscribers in the comments. Everyone's saying they like this format, and well, I guess it's good to do kind of open mic format because we're talking about a little bit of a rumor open mic situation. Is Hasbro trying to get out of the Star Wars contract? Yes, it started. I'll credit where credit's due to Lord Doomcock there. Hope I don't get kicked off YouTube for mentioning his name. I've had bigger problems. That's a whole YouTube video for another time. All right, so yeah, as a former brand manager with one of the big two, someone who's worked on Star Wars toys, I worked on the Phantom Menace Episode 7 and Rogue One lines at Jax. So I did, I've experienced going to Lucasfilm and I've dealt with their bureaucracy, shall we say. So I hope I can provide a little insight into this rumor. Is it true? Why would they even be considering this? So yeah, let's dive in. All right. So first off, toy companies have, I guess, buyer's remorse a lot. They'll acquire a license and then realize, oh, the content that we were betting on isn't hitting. That's more common than not. Content bombs more than it's a hit. In fact, I can even tell you, I remember back at Mattel when we were working on the DC line and the Marvel movies were hitting. This was a time of Captain America 1, Iron Man 2, Thor 1, and DC was pumping out the Dark Knight movies and Green Lantern. And Green Lantern obviously underperformed at the box office, and while Dark Knight performed well, it was very dark and didn't sell toys. So a lot of executives, I remember, very specifically, it almost like froze in my memory, one of the executives saying, man, we backed the wrong horse. We should have gone with the other guy. Because Mattel was looking at either acquiring Marvel or DC. And seeing the success that Marvel was having in the content, there was definitely a lot of feeling like, oh, crud, we went with the wrong toy company. Although, the DC toys sold great. So the point being, though, is yes, I have heard this in many meetings with many companies. Now let's talk about Star Wars in particular and the difficulty of the license. So, back in the day, talking about 1977, Lucas had to beg toy companies to take the license, and nobody wanted it because back then Barbarella was basically, and Star Trek and Planet of the Apes were what people thought of as sci-fi and didn't sell toys that well. Star Wars obviously changed all of that. But because nobody wanted to take the license, Lucas wound up going with Kenner, and they had a 1% royalty. And it was actually into perpetuity. It was the same lawyer who actually worked on Pinmates at Entertainment Earth when I was there. So I got a chance to talk to him. And it was really, he even put in the contract that the license for Kenner was going to be into perpetuity throughout the galaxy. He put into the contract just kind of as a gag, but Kenner and Lucasfilm signed it and thought that was funny. So the idea was that Kenner was going to be able to make toys for a 1% royalty forever unless they stopped. And they did. When they stopped making toys, the license became available. And when Hasbro reacquired the license in 95, well, it would have been in like 93, 94 when the deal was made, they were able to put a brand new royalty on it. So the 1% that Lucas was actually kind of a little upset about because that was below standard for years and Kenner was raking it in, so he was getting a penny on every dollar. The new royalty was 10 points in 1995, which was a little high, but not outrageous. Most properties were about between 5, 8, 7 points at that time. Star Wars was a little higher, and it's always been a little higher. Well, obviously with the special editions and then the prequels, Star Wars did very well. And obviously Hasbro was very happy with the license and continued to experiment and put out new scales, new form factors. They did wind up giving away the 12-inch license, which actually does set precedent. So Hasbro has, if you will, sold off or backed out of or leased out different aspects of their license in the past, i.e. 12-inch, used to be with Hasbro. And then Hasbro said, this form factor is not making us our margins, so let's see if we can get out of this and give this form factor to someone else. And that's part of the issue. We'll return to royalties in a moment, but there are so many companies making Star Wars toys these days that, when Kenner was doing it, they had the master license for all categories: puzzles, action figures, inflatable toys, stuffed animals, records, that kind of thing, role play, all categories. Now, the license is so split up that, I've always talked about how you can get Greedo in a gazillion form factors, from a Pez dispenser to a plush to, a highly articulated action figure in different scales. And so those are kind of the two trains that are racing towards each other. The sheer amount of product out there through splicing, where the same toy is being made almost by two different companies. Like, for example, these titanium series ships that Hasbro did a couple years ago. No different than the Mattel Hot Wheels. I think these titanium ships were 80% die cast and 20% plastic, and then the Hot Wheels were the reverse. They were 20% plastic, or 20% die cast, 80% plastic. Whatever it was the same toy with different components, and that's how licenses get split up: by material, by distribution, by territory, by price point. So there's a lot of that that's been going on for a few years, and we're now seeing the proliferation of that, where so many companies now have a small chunk of the Star Wars license. That's why even Lego Star Wars has been down. There's just so much of it out there. All right, so that's train one. Train two, and there's going to be three trains here. So we've got train one is the sheer amount of splicing. Two is obviously the content. The content's not performing. We know that. We know that the sequel movies and the Disney Plus stuff, Acolyte, it's not hitting. We know this from what's going on with products showing up at Ollie's and discounts, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third one is the royalty. As I mentioned, it went from 1% to 10% in 95. It's now at like 23%, 22%. It might even be higher for certain categories. And that, that's a really high royalty. And it eats into the ability of companies to produce quality product, because you have to pay more of the final cost to the license holder. So, it's not that Lucasfilm is greedy. They just feel that is what their license is worth. And like anything is worth what people will pay for it. So is Hasbro trying to get out of the license? Well, noting that the content is not performing. The royalties are really high. And the number of categories is just mushroomed out of control. There's so much, it's share of dollar is what it is. Because, let's say you've got your Star Wars fan, he's got $1 or $100. What's he going to spend that? He or she going to spend that on? Are they going to spend that completely on Black Series figures? Well, now they could choose, all these different things. Like I said, Pez dispensers to plush to, super deformed, like Funko. So they even have super deformed plush. So those are the three issues causing this. And could Hasbro be looking to get out of their contract? Absolutely. They're going to look at the bottom line, and they're going to see, look, are we hemorrhaging money? Are we losing money consistently on this brand? And I get that they have a long-term contract. That makes sense, because back in the day, Star Wars was sort of the gold standard and an unbeatable brand at retail. But with the content underperforming, and, new generation of kids don't even play with toys, so you're really dealing with an ever-dwindling number of, adult collectors in their basement that are rebuying the same Admiral Akbar toy that they had 30 years ago because cool nostalgia. Oh, and I forgot, actually, there's a fourth train. Lucasfilm, more than other licensors, not always, but a lot more than other licensors, dictates character selection and case packs. As an example, when I was at Mattel working on the DC line, the DC Universe Classics, which went about 6 years, the first year, waves 1 through 5 were 100% dictated by the licensor, Warner Brothers, DC. They told us who would be in every wave. Like the Metamorpho wave was wave 1, and then Deathstroke in wave 3, I want to think. It's like the Green Lantern wave, with Robin, Solomon Grundy as the Build-A-Figure. All of those details were not dictated, but they were provided by the licensing partner. Once we had shown, after those waves, that we had a good handle on the universe, we sort of proved that those of us working on the line, like Bill Beneke and myself, were DC comic fans and we knew our stuff. They not honestly backed off, but they eased allowing us more input into character selection. With Lucasfilm, my interactions with them, they've basically said, these are the characters you should do, this is when you are to do them, and companies that are licensors are required not just to do those characters, but to support that entertainment. So Lucasfilm will say, hey, we have a new show called The Acolyte coming out in 2 years. We need you to do retro figures, 6-inch and 3 3/4. These are the characters that will be in 6-inch. These are the characters that will be in 3 3/4. We want them on shelf at this date. That's not out of line. They're a little more flexible these days, but yeah, Lucasfilm is one of the only licensors that dictates character selection. And that's also a reason that Hasbro is probably like, okay, well, we're done making, we'd like to make just Darth Vader and Luke and Stormtrooper because they sell, but Lucasfilm wants us to make Acolyte figures based on the new content that's unproven. So that's another issue. So there's train number 4 of why Hasbro might want to get off the tracks with the Star Wars license. So that's pretty much it. So is it likely that Hasbro could be looking to get out of the Star Wars license? Absolutely. Toy companies do this all the time. Do factors line up justifying why Hasbro would want to do this? Yeah, too much splicing, high royalties, underperforming content. The formula makes sense. So I guess we will wait and see. Personally, I'm a big fan of when toy lines end because then you can truly collect them all. So I've been waiting for, Simalu, that last Imperial dignitary, and then I'm out. Well, I'm not out, but maybe with Hasbro backing off, I can finally end this obsession. Well, we'll have to see. But that's some rationale from the toy industry. Let me know what you think. And as always, the best way to support this channel is to share these videos with other people you might find this interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next Spector Creative video. Suggestions always welcome for topics. All right, thanks for watching.